What up, what up, what up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Let's Ask Paul, the podcast where I, Paul Abernathy, try to answer all of your pressing electrical code-related questions and, of course, anything electrically related. I do my best. Thanks for joining me on the podcast. If you've never listened to our podcast before or you stumbled across it, make sure you subscribe, whatever platform you're listening on. And do me a favor. If you're an electrician out there and you really want a nice resource in your pocket, then just go to our website and download our mobile app. We won't bombard you with spam. We won't send you stuff just to keep bombarding you to buy our products. Trust me, that is not going to happen. And anybody that's been a member and knows and has our mobile app knows that we don't do that. But you can get a lot of great resources. All you got to do is go on over to Fast Track's system. That's FastTraxSystem.com. And of course, that'll be down in the description as well. And when you go there, you'll see a link in the navigation to what's called the mobile app. We do not have it on the app stores. We do not want to charge people for it. And we do not want to physically put anything in your phone other than a quick link to a mobile adaptive web app. That's it. And the reason we do that is because it allows it to work like an app on your phone, gives you all of the benefits of an app. We control it in the cloud, so that means that we can add things to it without you having to re-download software and go through all that crap again. It's just the new way to do it, and that's how we do it. So we're not into, everybody knows me, knows I'm not into putting stuff in your phone. But we will ask you for permission to be able to send you notices, as well as to put that little link icon on your phone. That's our little genie. Let us put it on your phone, and that way you can click it, and at any time, you can go right to our mobile app. There's chat features, blogs. There's you can get to your courses if you're a Fast Track student, shortcuts for that. There's a bunch of calculators for all different types of things, wire sizing, overload sizing, conductors for motors, transformer sizing, transformer protection, even bending, offsets, saddle bends. All that stuff's in there. It's free. And we're always adding new stuff. So make sure that you go get the free mobile app. And no, you're not going to get it from the App Store. You go right to our website. And there's another way you can get it. It's quicker. Just go to NECCHAT.com. It's called NECChat.com. And you'll see where you can download it directly from there on your mobile phone. Or if you're on a desktop, you go there and you can scan the barcode with your mobile phone and it'll put it on your device. Okay? All right, make sure you do that. It's also a great way to listen to our podcasts, okay? All right, today we had a question that came in that I wanted to dedicate some time to. And the question says, Paul, will you explain more about the 410.10 luminaires in specific locations? More than happy to elaborate more on that and to maybe break that down and maybe explain a couple things a little bit when it comes to that. So obviously when you get a luminaire, many people still call light fixture, but you get a luminaire and you install it in a dwelling or in a building. Again, obviously, typically it's a dry location, so we don't have any issues. You can pretty much put the luminaire wherever you want, right? With obvious limitations if it's in closed closets and all that kind of stuff. But in general, if it's just a luminaire and you install it, not a problem. What you run into is when you're dealing with something like wet or damp locations or corrosive locations and things like that, then you have to step up the game a little bit and take a little harder look at the luminaire that you're installing. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today and see if we can't kind of nail that down, at least the most important ones to have. All right, so first things first, let's talk about installation of luminaires in a wet or a damp location. So obviously, if it's a regular luminaire that you would install, let's say in a bedroom, in a living room, wherever, that is not going to be conducive to install that luminaire in a wet or damp location unless, of course, it's what? Unless, of course, it is labeled as such or it's got a listing for use in those specific locations, right? So for like a wet or damp. So let's look at it. So 410.10 is titled Luminaires in Specific Locations. And A is wet and damp locations. It says luminaires installed in a wet or damp location shall be installed such that the water cannot enter or accumulate in wiring compartments, lamp holders, or other electrical parts. So there's specific ways that you mount these luminaires in order to keep the water from potentially accumulating in the compartments. And there's also, obviously, in a lot of cases, when you install these, you're gonna seal along the top, so you leave the bottom open so water can drain if it happens to get in behind the actual luminaire to the outlet box. But you have to install the luminaire in itself so that it's not sitting there with all of its open parts waiting for rain to just, or water to just go flooding in, okay? And so you'll get instructions. If it is for a wet or damp location, you'll have an instruction manual and it'll give guidance for that. So that's just the first part about it, making sure that you install it so that it cannot actually accumulate water, again, in the compartments, lamp holder, or other electrical parts. Now, it goes on to say, all luminaires installed in a wet location shall be marked as suitable for wet locations. So the manufacturers will mark that on the actual luminaire, whether it's on the box, installation instructions, may even be on the luminaire itself with a little label that says suitable for wet locations. Then it goes on to say all luminaires installed in damp locations shall be marked as suitable for wet locations or suitable for damp locations. So obviously, anything that's going to be installed in a damp location, obviously wet is a worse condition than the damp. So if it's already suitable for a wet location, then it obviously is going to be okay for the damp location. Now, one of the things to remember in this, it does not say that one that is suitable for a damp location can be installed in a wet location. So it doesn't go that way. So the more restrictive is the wet location, which is perfectly fine to use that same luminaire in a damp, but it doesn't go the other way. Okay? So if all you see is damp location on it, then you're not going to be using that in a wet location, only in a damp location. So the next one is B, and B is dealing with corrosive locations. So you could have a location where you have a corrosive environment, whether it's atmospheric, I think I said that funky, atmospheric condition, then you could have a corrosive environment. But whatever the condition is or where it may be, then a luminaire that's installed in a corrosive location shall be of the type suitable for that specific location, okay? So that's something to remember. I think about some of the luminaires that are installed in certain areas of water treatment facilities that have a lot of corrosive conditions of atmospheric condition that can create corrosion and things like that. So they're very hyper-focused on the type of luminaires, obviously, that they install in that environment. And they are very aware of the corrosive nature that is in that environment. So they actively will seek out luminaires that are rated for such a location, that type of thing. Let's see here. Next one, we'll go on and skip C, which is in ducts or hoods. This is just allowing you to be able to have a luminaire inside of, for example, a commercial cooking hood. Sometimes you look in these commercial cooking hoods and you'll see a luminaire in there with a glass enclosure. It has a metal wiring over it and all that type of thing, right? Well, you've got some conditions that have to be met. And actually, there's 4 conditions, and they all have to be met. So we won't go over that here because that's very specific. And usually the engineering of design, if they're going to get one of those hoods, commercial cooking hoods, typically it probably already has a luminaire incorporated into it. And the manufacturer of that hood is probably keenly aware of all of these conditions that have to be met, okay? So we're going to skip on down to the next one, which is bathtub and shower area, okay? So this is an important one for us to look at. Now, I'll remind you that I am under the 2023 edition of the NEC. So it's important because it's pretty much the same, but if you look at it through the different cycles, there is some verbiage change in how it is in the actual 2023. And so we don't want to make sure it doesn't, throw anybody off, right? Because the real change that took place was The revised it to add luminaries light kits connected to paddle fans. Okay, so they added this paddle fans with this Luminaire light kits to it. Okay, so that's the only real significant change. So let's read it and I'll explain it. Okay, so let's say you want to put a Luminaire and you're in a bathroom, let's say, and you have a bathtub or you have shower area. Okay, incidentally, this isn't just this rule. Bathtub and shower area is not specific to a bathroom. It's just in general a bathtub or shower area. Okay. So it says a luminaire installed in a bathtub or shower area shall meet all other following requirements. All right. Number one, no part of a cord connected luminaire, chain, cable, or cord suspended luminaire, lighting track, pendant, or ceiling suspended pedal fans with luminaire light kits shall be located within a zone measured 3 feet horizontal and 8 feet vertical from the top of the bathtub rim or shower stall threshold. And again, the threshold of the shower stall would be the point where, again, the point that you step over or enter into the shower. And of course, the bathroom rim is going to encompass the bathroom rim of that tub, of the bathtub rim, up. So it's going to be 3 feet out horizontally and 8 feet up vertically, starting from the top of the bathtub rim or the top of the shower stall threshold. So none of those things that we just mentioned can be in that area. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that I can't have a recess with a proper lens cap cover on it that is rated for the environment or wherever it is. But it's saying that I can't have cord connected luminaires, chain connected, cable, or cord suspended luminaires. I can't have lighting tracks. I can't have pendants in there. I can't have ceiling suspended paddle fans with luminaire light kits. Okay. None of that can be installed in that 3 foot by 8 foot zone. And as I said, you measure that zone from the top of the bathtub rim out 3 feet and up 8 feet. Or I could have the shower stall. You could have the threshold where you step into the shower up. Okay. And that goes across the bottom, whether or not you have just a curtain you pull or it's a door and you still have the, let's say, fixed panes of glass. The threshold is the threshold. That's the bottom part where it transitions between the shower to whatever the walling material was or the walkway that you walk in. Okay, that's the threshold. The point where you can cross over to go into the shower. That's your threshold. So you measure from there out 3 feet and up 8 feet. Okay. Now people ask, what if my ceiling is much higher than that? Okay, well, this all-encompassing zone only goes from the top of the bathtub out 3 feet and up 8 feet. So if your ceiling is much higher than that, then obviously you may be able to get one of these types of luminaires above that 8 foot point. Now remember, it's not 8 foot from the floor area up. It's from the top of the bathtub rim or from the top of the actual shower stall threshold. That's what you measure up. Okay, so that's really important to be aware of. I don't know how many jobs I've gone into, and I just recently went to one in Oklahoma as an inspection, and I looked at it, and they had a chandelier over the bathtub, and clearly it was going to protrude down into the 8 foot space from the top of the bathtub rim. And that's a no-go, but it was up there, right? And so if it had been a recess or something, you'd be like, no problem. But it was obviously clear that that was going to be a pendant style chandelier, and it couldn't be in there. Okay. So what do? They cap it off, but you could get an overzealous inspector. But at the end of the day, you could just put a surface mount, right? Surface mount that's not cord connected, chain, cable, or cord suspended or what that, and you put that up there, and inspector can't have any real problem with that. That type of thing. So just be aware of that. Now it goes on to number 2, and it says, luminaires located within the actual outside dimensions of the bathtub or shower to a height of 8 feet vertically from the top of the bathtub rim or shower threshold shall be marked suitable for damp locations or marked suitable for wet locations. Luminaires located where subject to shower spray shall be marked suitable for wet locations. So this is the one that's saying, okay, I can have a regular surface mount, one of the ones that's not included in D1. I can have a regular luminaire up there. But if I do, it needs to be damp location. Or like we said, we could be more restrictive and it could be a wet location because we know wet locations can go in a damp, but we know that a damp can't go in a wet. So it goes on to remind us, though, that maybe in some of these really nice showers, you might have some wall sconces. Well, if that's the case, if they're to the point where they are subject to spray just because of their height, then they need to be wet, okay? But if we're talking about in the ceiling above it, in the shower head, is no way it's going to spray water straight up, even though it could get some incidental from bouncing off of somebody, I guess. That is not subject to the shower spray, okay? So that is just, what might bounce off your head or something like that. So at the end of the day, you could use damp up there, and anything that is subject to such spray, direct spray, then it would have to be wet. Now, you're going to get some people that say, yeah, but if it's a removable head, kids could turn it and shoot it straight up at the ceiling. With that same mentality, everything in your house could be subject to physical damage, and then it would be really a pain in the butt to enforce the code. So some people take things so far extreme that it's like, really? I mean, really? But at the end of the day, if you're concerned about that, then make it wet location and you don't have to worry. Okay? I mean, that's just the way to think about it. Okay? So that's so important to remember. So what are some of the things you can do? Okay, well, like I said, if you want to put surface mounted or recessed luminaires rated for damp or wet location, remember that's what the D2 is about. So if I want to put so basically you can, a lot of times with the recesses, you just get the lens cover that will turn that into a damp or wet location rating, depending on the lens cover, right? You could have a pendant luminaire, as long as the ceiling, maybe it's a coffer type ceiling, maybe it's up high enough that the pendant luminaire doesn't go down and it is outside of that 8 feet from the top of the bathtub rim all the way up 8 feet. Well, maybe the ceiling is a 12-foot ceiling and the pendant luminaire only hangs down 2 feet or something like that. So again, as long as it stays out of that 8 foot from the top of the bathtub rim, then you're okay, right? So you could have a really, really high ceiling in there, that type of thing. But if that pendant, hangs down and actually penetrates that 8 foot zone that's above the top of the rim, then you have a problem. Okay. Let's see here. That's the base, pretty much the basic for most of the stuff that we're gonna cover when it comes to those locations. I'm probably, there's other ones that deal with luminaires and indoor sports, mixed use, all-purpose facilities. That's just code language. Read it. That is E. So that is 410.10E. And I'm not going to go into that because that's pretty self-explanatory. And then, of course, you have luminaires installed in or under roof decking. You have some rules for that as well. And again, you want to make sure that the roof decking, luminaires installed in exposed or concealed locations under roof decking where subject to physical damage shall be installed and supported so there is not less than 1.5 inches measured from the lowest surface of the roof decking to the top of the luminaire. Okay, so you have some allowances for that. Okay. All right, and again, that's so that nobody drives these long screws through the roofing material down through the decking and then down into the luminaire. Right? Makes sense. And that also correlates with raceways and boxes and enclosures that are installed underneath that roof decking. You get that in 300.4E. If you want to pause and go read that, that's where you get some of the rules for that. So it kind of correlates with that. And so it harmonizes the intent. So whether it's a luminaire or it's a boxes or it's a raceway, then you're going to have that 1.5 inch separation between the lowest part of the decking and the top of the luminaire, or in this case, the boxes, the raceways, or whatnot. So anyway, that's a little extra for you in 300.4e when it comes to, again, cables, raceways, and boxes. So it's very similar for the luminaire application here under roof decking. All right. All right, folks, that's pretty much all we wanted to cover in this. Hopefully I answered those questions. And remember that when we're talking about the area, that 3 foot horizontally and 8 foot vertically, okay, that is basically it going out. If your tub was sitting by itself in the middle of a room, right, then the 3 foot horizontally would go out in all directions. If it's sitting, a bathtub is like in a cove between 2 walls, like a normal bathtub, then it's going to be measured. Obviously, the walls are on the sides, so it's going to be measured from the bathtub rim straight out 3 feet and then straight up 8 feet. Okay, that type of scenario. All right. All right. Well, if you got any questions on this, and again, there's always questions, you know what you can do. Just go to paulabernathy.com. Leave a comment in the episode that you are referring to. Ask your question. Be very specific on the code section, even though I'm talking about the 2023 in this episode. Be very specific if you have any questions, and I am more than happy to elaborate on anything for you. So hopefully we explained a little bit about luminaires in specific locations, and as we said, wet and damp, corrosive, and of course, bathtub and shower areas. All right? Till next time, folks, stay safe. God bless.